18.3 Game Theory. In this chapter, we cover meaning and three features of game theory: rules, strategy, and payoff. Simultaneous game, strategy and equilibrium, in which study prisoner's dilemma, dominant strategy, Nash equilibrium, and another example of Duopolist dilemma. The second gaming strategy is sequential or repeated game. It's strategy and equilibrium. A repeated duopoly game in which study the concept of tit-for trigger strategy, and a sequential entry game in a contestable market. As firms in oligopoly are in a situation of interdependence whereby each firm's decisions significantly affect the profit of the other firm, or firms in the case of more than two, in effect, the two firms are playing a game in which the profit of each player depends not only on its own actions but on those of the other player or players. In order to understand more fully how oligopolists behave, economists along with mathematicians develop the area of study of such games known as game theory. It has many applications, not just to economics but also to military strategy, politics, and other social sciences. Game theory. Game theory is a set of tools for studying strategic behavior that takes into account the expected behavior of others and the recognition of mutual interdependence. Game theory was invented by John von Neumann in 1937 and extended by von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern in 1944. Today, it is one of the major research fields in economics. All games share three common features: rules, strategies, and payoff surprise. The first is simultaneous game, strategy, and equilibrium. Here's the example of prisoner's dilemma. We're going to look at these features of games by playing a game called prisoner's dilemma. The prisoner's dilemma game displays the essential features of many games, including oligopoly games, and it gives a good illustration of how game theory works and generates predictions. Benny and Stella are arrested for robbing banks. Rules: each was interrogated in separate rooms where the interrogators offered them a choice. If they both confessed, they would both get 5 years in prison. If one confessed, the confessor would go free while the other one would get 10 years. If neither confessed, they would each get 2 years. Strategy. In game theory, strategies are all possible action of each player. Payoffs. Because there are two players each with two strategies, there are 4 possible outcomes. Each prisoner can work out exactly what happens to him or his payoff in each of these 4 situations. The payoff matrix is a table that shows the payoffs for every possible action by each player given the every possible action by the other player. 4 strategies are both confess, both deny, Bonnie confesses and Stella denies, Stella confesses and Bonnie denies. So in the table, the best possibility for both as a group would be if neither confessed, which would mean that they would only have to spend 2 years in jail or prison. The worst possibility for both of them as a group, as if it is if they both confessed, they must spend 5 years in prison. However, as individuals, they may be able to do better or worse depending on how successfully they anticipate what the other will do. If Stella confesses, the worst she can do is spend 5 years in prison, and the best that she can do is go free. Likewise for Benny. In this case, confessing is what called the game theory a dominant strategy, which yields the best outcome regardless of what other players do, which is a strategy to take when it is impossible to anticipate the decision. It means if Stella was not confident about Benny's decision, then she would select the dominant strategy. When Benny and Stella both confess, they reach an equilibrium of the game theory. This kind of equilibrium in which each player takes the action that is best for her, given the action taken by the other players, which is called a Nash Equilibrium, named after a theoretical economist John Nash, whose life was portrayed in the movie A Beautiful Mind. Because the players in a Nash Equilibrium do not take into account the effects of their action on others and they have no motivation to change their strategy, this is also known as non-cooperative equilibrium. The second example in this is Duopolist dilemma. The dilemma of Airbus and Boeing is similar to Bonnie and Stella. Each firm has two strategies. It can produce aeroplanes at the rate of 3 a week or 4 a week. Because each firm has two strategies, there are four possible combination of actions for the two firms. Both firms produce 3 planes a week, that is monopoly outcome. Both firms produce 4 planes a week. Airbus produces 3 planes and Boeing produces 4 planes a week. Boeing produces 3 planes or Airbus produces 4 planes a week. In the matrix table, if both Airbus and Boeing produces 4 planes a week, they both make a profit of $32 million. If both decides to produce 3 planes a week, they make a profit of $36 million. If one firm decides to make 3 planes and another 3, then the firm which produces more will make a profit of $40 million and the firm which produces monopoly output will earn $30 million. Now look at things from Airbus point of view. Airbus reasons as follows. Suppose that Boeing produces 4 airplanes a week. If I, Airbus, produce 3 a week, I will make an economic profit of $30 million. If I produce 4 a week, I will make an economic profit of $32 million if I am better off producing 4 aeroplanes a week. Airbus continues to reason. Now suppose Boeing produces 3 a week. If I produce 4 a week, I will make an economic profit of $40 million. If I produce 3 a week, I will make an economic profit of $36 million. An economic profit of $40 million is better than the economic profit of $36 million. So I am better off if I produce 4 airplanes a week. So regardless of whether Boeing produces 3 a week or 4 a week, it pays Airbus to produce 4 airplanes a week. Because the two firms face identical situations, Boeing comes to the same conclusion as Airbus, so both firms produce 4 a week. So the equilibrium of the duopoly game is that both firms produce 4 aeroplanes a week. The gaming strategy and equilibrium and payoff matrix is a one-time game because the firms select their optimal strategies in a single time period without regard to possible interactions in subsequent time periods. The game is also a simultaneous game because the firm chooses their strategies at the same time. Nash equilibrium occurs when both firms are simultaneously playing dominant strategies so that neither firm has any incentive to alter its behavior. The second form of gaming strategy is sequential or repeated game. Its strategy is in equilibrium. A game that is played only once is called a one-shot game. Repeated games are games that are played over and over again. A game in which players move in turns, responding to each other's action and reactions. Strategies in a repeated game is often more complex than strategies in a one-shot game, as the players need to be concerned about the reactions and potential retaliations of other players. As such, players in repeated games are likely to choose cooperative or win-win strategies more often than in one-shot games. The games that we have studied are played just once. In contrast, many real-world games are played repeatedly. This feature of games turns out to enable real-world duopolists to cooperate, collude, and make a monopoly profit. Another feature of the games that we have studied is that the players move simultaneously. But in many real-world situations, one player moves first and then the other moves. The play is sequential rather than simultaneous. This feature of real-world games creates a large number of possible outcomes. A repeated duopoly game. If two firms play a game repeatedly, one firm has the opportunity to penalize the other for previous bad behavior. If Gert cheats this week, perhaps Strick will cheat next week. Actually, there is more than one possibility to achieve equilibrium of this game. One is a Nash equilibrium that we have just analyzed. Both players cheat and each makes zero economic profit forever. In such a situation, it will never pay one of the players to start complying unilaterally because to do so would result in a loss for that player and a profit for the other. But a cooperative equilibrium in which the players make and share the monopoly profit is possible. A cooperative equilibrium might occur if cheating is punished. There are two extremes punishment. The smallest penalty is tit for tat. A tit for tat strategy is one in which a player cooperates in the current period if the other player cooperated in the previous period, but cheats in the current period if the other player cheated in the previous period. The most severe form of punishment is a trigger strategy. A trigger strategy is one in which a player cooperates if the other player cooperates, but plays the Nash Equilibrium strategy forever thereafter if the other player cheats. For example, don't advertise, provided the rival has not advertised in the past. If the rival ever advertises, punish it by engaging in a high level of advertising forever after. In effect, each firm agrees to cooperate so long as the rival hasn't cheated in the past. Cheating triggers punishment in all future periods. In the duopoly game between Gear and Trick, a tit-for-tat strategy keeps both players cooperating and making monopoly profits. Let's see why with an example. Table shows the economic profit that Trick and Gear will make over a number of periods under two alternative sequences of events, colluding and cheating with a tit-for-tat response by the other firm. This is a table. In one, they both are colluding, tricks and gears, and the other one cheat with tit-for-tat strategy. In the table, if both firms stick to the collusive agreement in period 1, each makes an economic profit of $2 million. Suppose the trick contemplates cheating in period 1, the cheating produces a quick $4.5 million economic profit and inflicts a $1 million economic loss on gear. But a cheat in period 1 produces a response from gear in period 2. If Trick wants to get back into a profit-making situation, it must return to the agreement in period 2 even though it knows that gear will punish it for cheating in period 1. So in period 2, gear punishes Trick and Trick cooperates. Gear now makes an economic profit of $4.5 million and Trick incurs an economic loss of $1 million. Adding up the profits over 2 periods of play, Trick would have made more profit by cooperating $4 million compared with $3.5 million. What is true for Trick is also true for Gear, because each firm makes a larger profit by sticking with the collusive agreement. Both firms do so and the monopoly price and quantity and profit prevail. In reality, whether a cartel works like a one-play game or a repeated game depends primarily on the number of players and the ease of detecting and punishing cheating. The larger the number of players, the harder it is to maintain a cartel. A repeated duopoly game can help us understand real-world behavior and in particular price wars. Some price wars can be interpreted as the implementation of a tit-for-tat strategy. Playing a tit-for-tat strategy, firms have an incentive to stick to the monopoly price. But fluctuations in demand lead to fluctuations in the monopoly price, and sometimes when the price changes, it might seem to one of the firms that the price has fallen because the other has cheated. In this case, a price war will break out. The price war will end only when each firm is satisfied that the other is ready to cooperate again. There will be cycles of price wars and the restoration of collusive agreements. Fluctuations in the world price of oil might be interpreted in this way. A sequential entry game in a contestable market. If two firms play a sequential game, one firm makes a decision at the first stage of the game and the other makes a decision at the second stage. We're going to study a sequential game in a contestable market, a market in which firms can enter and leave so easily that firms in the market face competition from potential entrants. Examples of contestable markets are routes served by airlines and by barge companies that operate on the major waterways. These markets are contestable because firms could enter if an opportunity for economic profit arose and could exit with no penalty if the opportunity for economic profit disappeared. If the Herfindahl-Hirschman index is used to determine the degree of competition, a contestable market appears to be uncompetitive. But a contestable market can behave as if it were perfectly competitive. To see why, let's look at the entry game for the contestable air route. A contestable air route, agile air, is the only firm operating on a particular route. Demand and cost conditions are such that there is room for only one airline to operate. Wanabe Inc. is another airline that could offer services to the route. We describe the structure of a sequential game by using the game tree like that in the figure. At the first stage, Agile Air must set a price. Once the price is set and advertised, Agile can't change it. That is, once set, Agile's price is fixed and Agile can't react to Wanabe's entry decision. Agile can set its price at either the monopoly level or the competitive level. At the second stage, Wanabe must decide whether to enter or stay out. Customers have no loyalty, there are no frequent flyer programs, and they buy from the lowest price firm. So if Wanabe enters, it sets a price just below Agile's and take all the business. Figure shows the payoffs from the various decisions. Agile's in the red triangle and the Wanabe in the blue triangle. So you can see to decide on its price, Agile CEO reasons as follows. Suppose that Agile sets the monopoly price, and if Wanabe enters, it earns 90. If Wanabe stays out, it earns nothing. If so, Wanabe will enter. In this case, Agile will lose 50. Now suppose that Agile sets a competitive price. If Wanabe stays out, it earns nothing, and if enters, it loses 10. Wanabe will stay out. In this case, Agile will make zero economic profit. Agile's best strategy is to set its price at the competitive level and make zero economic profit. The option of earning 100 by setting the monopoly price with Wanabe staying out is not available to Agile. If Agile sets the monopoly price, Wanabe enters, undercuts Agile, and takes all the business. In this example, Agile sets its price at the competitive level and makes zero economic profit. A less costly strategy called limit pricing sets the price at the highest level that inflicts a loss on the entrant. This game is interesting because it points to the possibility of monopoly behaving like a competitive industry and serving the social interest without regulation. But the result is not general and depends on one crucial feature of the setup of the game. At the second stage, Agile is locked into the price set at the first stage.